This is Friday's Anglia Tonight. Welcome to the programme.
First this evening, the soldier starting a 9-month sentence after refusing to return to fight in Afghanistan.
Lance Corporal Joe Glenton, who's originally from Norwich, went absent without leave in 2007.
Well, since then, he's become an active anti-war campaigner. Today, though, to the fury of his supporters, a court-martial panel in Colchester decided to jail him.
Our correspondent Emma Baker joins us now from Colchester. Emma, this case has attracted plenty of attention, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely, Becky. This case has attracted a huge amount of attention, not just here in the UK, but right the way across the world. Lance Corporal Joe Glenton was the first serving soldier to openly criticise the conflict in Afghanistan. Indeed, in many ways, he's become the face of the anti-war campaign. But here today at a court-martial in Colchester behind me, having pleaded guilty to going absent without leave for 2 years, he was told he would have to pay the price for that. His defence team argued that he'd been suffering terribly from post-traumatic stress disorder when he came back from Afghanistan, but the judge told him he had let his comrades down.
Free Joe Glenton!
His supporters argue he's a brave man fighting for what he believes in. Others say he's a soldier who failed to do his duty. Today, Lance Corporal Joe Glenton received a 9-month sentence for going absent without leave. Some would argue that you sign up to the army and that's it. You have to then go and do your duty, no matter what the political situation, no matter what the conflict you're fighting. You're not in there for politics, you're there just to do your duty. And Joe didn't do that.
No, Joe did do his duty. He's taught in the army under a thing called sea drills to show courage. And if something is taking place that is wrong and immoral, then it is your duty as a soldier, as a good soldier, to speak out against it.
Originally from Norwich, Joe Glenton joined the army in 2004. In 2006, he spent a 7-month tour of duty in Afghanistan, serving with the Royal Logistics Corps. He was ordered back to the conflict zone 9 months later. It was at this point in June 2007 that he went AWOL, fleeing to Asia and then Australia. 2 years later, he gave himself up and in January this year pleaded guilty to going absent without leave. His defence team said since returning from Afghanistan, he had been suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder.
I think it stinks. I think they just made a scapegoat of him. They didn't take into account any of the mitigating factors that were put forward. I think this was a done deal before we got it.
Joe Glenton's case highlights a wider problem within the army. Official figures from the Ministry of Defence reveal that since 2003, 17,000 troops have gone absent without leave. 2,000 troops went AWOL in 2009. 375 were still absent at the end of last year. Joe Glenton has made no secret of his opposition to the war in Afghanistan.
I came back feeling quite ashamed. I felt I couldn't see what we'd achieved by being there. I felt very disillusioned.
In passing sentence, the judge said the system had sought to help you, but rather than letting the system help you, you decided to go absent without leave. There are many soldiers in the army today who have extremely unpleasant experiences, but they do their duty. You did not. Today's case has come on the day that Prime Minister Gordon Brown was heckled by protesters before giving evidence to the Chilcot inquiry into the war in Iraq.
Nobody wants to go to war. Nobody wants to see innocent people die. Nobody wants to see your forces put at risk of their lives.
Joe Glenton left court today as Private Glenton, now reduced to the ranks. His legal team say they will be appealing against his sentence. Emma Baker, Anglia News, Colchester.
Well, earlier we spoke to General Sir Richard Dannett, the former head of the British Army who lives in Norfolk.
I began by asking for his reaction to the sentence passed on Joe Glenton today.
The soldier in question has been convicted and sentenced, and that is right and proper according to the court-martial, which is a properly constituted court of law. And frankly, in a disciplined organisation like an army, you've got to have rules and regulations, and people who are in the army have got to follow them. Now, if that young man had difficulties with being a soldier, it's a volunteer army these days. He could have put his notice in, given a year's notice to quit, and he could have left. You only exacerbate a problem by taking the law into your own hands, and in his case, going absent without leave. So if you break the rules, if you break the law, which is effectively what he did, then he's tried, and he's been convicted, and he's been sentenced. And I'm afraid that's how it is, and that's how it should be.
Does the army have a bigger problem, though? Because the Military of Defence figures suggesting 17,000 members of the army have gone AWOL between 2003 and current times. Is it a bigger problem?
It's not as big a problem as 17,000 would indicate. Some of our soldiers aren't very good timekeepers. Coming in on Monday morning is something that often is not adhered to terribly well. And also, sometimes, and this is a failure of management in a sense, people have personal problems and they feel the way to solve them is to stay at home and sort them out. Actually, if they asked their company commander, if they asked their commanding officer, could they have a week's compassionate leave, they would probably get it. So the figure of 17,000 is a very false figure. And if you drilled down into it, you'd find that a large number of those incidents of absence were relatively short, just a few days. I mean, there are some cases of longer-term absence, but they're relatively few.
General Sir Richard Dannett, thank you very much for coming in to see us on Anglia tonight.
Thank you.
Now, moving on to other news, people living in the Fenland town of Wisbeach have hit back at claims that its unemployed are lazy and work-shy.
It follows the broadcast of a BBC documentary that placed local out-of-work people in jobs usually carried out by migrant workers and appeared to show they weren't up to the task.
Well, that's left local people and the town's MP fuming and led to claims the show misrepresented Wisbeach. Matthew Hudson has this report.
A town enjoying the watery sunshine of an early spring day. But below the surface in Wisbeach, there's anger and resentment. Many people here feel last week's documentary portrayed them as work-shy, unwilling or unable to do an honest day's toil.
They should have got the ones what can do the jobs, to show that we do want to work.
So a little unfair on local people.
Yes.
I think there are people in Wisbeach that want to work. And I don't think that programme showed the right sort of people.
It made them look, as one lady said it, like a carrot-crunching idiot who was lazy. And that's so not true about the residents of Wisbeach.
It's like I'm a foreigner in my own country.
I literally can't get no job at all.
The day the immigrants left was made for the BBC by production company Leopard. It followed unemployed people as they tried a variety of jobs. Most failed in their work, one or two didn't even bother to turn up. Local MP Malcolm Moss believes the town was misrepresented.
Frankly, you could go to any town in East Anglia and find 8 or 10 people off the dole who would perform similarly when given these various tasks. And what did that prove? It didn't prove anything.
A statement issued on behalf of the BBC said the producers went to great lengths to select workers who were representative of those available in Wisbeach. This extensive research was to ensure that a broad and balanced range of views were included in the programme. This potato storage and distribution centre has been here for 27 years. The owner has never had difficulty finding British staff.
We've had people coming here on push bikes, asking for jobs, and we have employed them, and we've had no problem.
At the local paper, it's been years since the post bag was this full. The editor hopes it will spark an important debate.
The cat's out of the bag. Everybody has got a view about it, and it's not all negative, and it's not racist, and it's not anti-migrant workers. What it is, it's offering a realistic and real look at some of the issues.
Few people here consider themselves racist, but they say the real story for a documentary is the effect on schools, healthcare and law and order which large-scale migration has had, rather than the desire to work or otherwise of a dozen locals. Matthew Hudson, Anglia News in Wisbeach.
Well, next tonight, just how important is your regional and local identity?
Well, in Essex, a